There is a ritual so old that most Jewish grandmothers performed it without ever being told why. They simply knew. They had watched their own mothers do it, and their mothers before them, stretching back through generations of women who understood something about the home that the modern world has completely forgotten. Tonight I am going to share it with you, and by the time this is over, you will never look at your kitchen the same way again. Think about the women in your family who seem to carry a kind of quiet abundance with them. Not necessarily wealthy by the world's standards, but never truly lacking. There was always enough. Somehow, no matter how tight things became, the pantry was never empty, the table was never bare, and the house carried a warmth that money alone cannot buy. You probably assumed it was luck, or personality, or simply good fortune. But what if it was something else entirely? What if these women knew a secret, a specific physical act performed in a specific place that kept the flow of divine provision moving through their homes like a river that never runs dry? What I am about to share has roots in Kabbalistic teachings that go back thousands of years. These are not superstitions. These are not folklore. These are spiritual technologies, precise intentional practices that align the physical world with the invisible laws that govern abundance. The rabbis of old understood something that most modern people have completely dismissed, that the home is not merely a building, it is a vessel. My grandmother gave me these secrets in her home 50 years ago. Every blessing, every protection, every tradition that makes a Jewish home truly sacred. Now I've gathered them all into one book just for you. Visit the link in the description or pinned comment and let me be your grandmother too. And like any vessel, what you place inside it and how you treat it determines what it can hold. The flower jar, of all the objects in a traditional Jewish home, few carry as much spiritual weight as this one. In Hebrew, the word for flour, kemach, appears in contexts throughout the Torah that go far beyond baking. In the teachings of the Talmud, there is a saying that has echoed through centuries of rabbinical study: Im ein kemach, ein Torah. If there is no flour, there is no Torah. The sages were teaching something profound here. They were saying that physical sustenance and spiritual life are not separate. They are intertwined. One cannot exist without the other. Where there is flour, where there is provision, the spirit can flourish. And where provision is blocked, everything suffers. This is why the flour jar was never treated as an ordinary kitchen object in a traditional Jewish household. It was treated as a point of spiritual contact, a place where the physical and the divine met every single day. And the women who understood this, the Jewish mothers and grandmothers who kept these teachings alive through centuries of displacement, hardship, and survival, they knew that this jar required more than just flour. It required intention. It required acknowledgement. It required a signal to heaven that the household was open to receive. That signal was 3 coins. Now, before you dismiss this as a simple folk custom, I want you to stay with me, because the deeper you go into this practice, the more you will realize that it is rooted in Kabbalistic principles so precise, so carefully constructed, that they could not have been invented by accident. Every element, the number 3, the metal of the coins, the specific location in the home, the act of placing rather than throwing or dropping. Every single detail carries meaning, and that meaning matters. Let us begin with the number 3. In Kabbalah, 3 is one of the most sacred numbers in existence. It represents the 3 patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the 3 pillars upon which the spiritual structure of the Jewish people was built. But more than that, 3 represents the completion of a channel. In the Kabbalistic map of divine energy known as the Sephirot, the 10 emanations through which the Creator channels blessing into the world, certain groups of 3 form what are called triads, or triangles of energy. When something is done once, it is an action. When it is done twice, it is a pattern. When it is done 3 times, it becomes a vessel. It becomes a container that can hold what was previously only passing through. This is why the rabbis established so many practices in 3s. 3 times you wash your hands. 3 times you recite certain blessings. 3 days of mourning, 3 weeks, 3 years. The repetition of 3 does not diminish the act. It amplifies it. It tells the spiritual world, this is not an accident. This is intentional. This is permanent. This is a vessel that is ready to receive. So when you place 3 coins in your flour jar, you are not simply dropping metal into a container. You are performing an act of declaration. You are saying, in the language that the spiritual world understands, that this household is a place of intentional provision. That abundance is not something you are hoping for, but something you are actively, physically making room for. Now, a woman named Rivka lived in Thessaloniki, Greece, in the early 20th century. She had survived things that would have broken most people. Her family had lost nearly everything, their business, their home, their savings, in a series of economic disasters that struck the Jewish community there. And yet those who knew Rivka described her home as a place that always felt abundant. There was always food. There was always something to offer a guest. Neighbors would ask her, "How do you do it?" And Rivka would smile, lead them to her kitchen, and show them her flour jar. At the bottom of that jar, beneath the flour, there were 3 old coins, tarnished, ancient, unremarkable to anyone who did not know their purpose. She would say, "My mother put them there, and her mother before her. We never let the flour run out, and we never take the coins out. The jar stays full because we treat it as if it is always full. My grandmother gave me these secrets in her home 50 years ago. Every blessing, every protection, every tradition that makes a Jewish home truly sacred. Now I've gathered them all into one book just for you. Visit the link in the description or pinned comment and let me be your grandmother too." This is the second layer of this teaching, and it is the one that changes everything for those who truly grasp it. In Kabbalistic thought, there is a principle called hamshacha, which means drawing down. It refers to the act of pulling divine energy from the upper spiritual realms into the physical world. The way you draw something down is by creating a physical representation of it first. You do not wait for abundance to arrive and then celebrate it. You celebrate it first in physical form, and then abundance has a place to land. The coins in the flour jar are a physical act of hamshacha. They are you saying to the Creator, "I believe provision is coming. I am making room for it now, in advance, in faith." And the flour jar is not just any container. It is the container of daily bread, of the most basic, most essential form of sustenance. By placing coins of value inside it, you are merging the symbol of provision with the reality of provision. You are telling heaven, in this home, money and nourishment live together. They are the same thing. They flow from the same source. But let me tell you something that most people overlook when they hear about this practice. The coins must be placed intentionally, not thrown in, not dropped carelessly. Placed, one at a time, with a moment of awareness between each one. And as you place each coin, the tradition teaches that you should whisper, not shout, not pray loudly. Just whisper the word parnassah, divine sustenance. The word itself is a prayer. In Hebrew, every word carries its own spiritual frequency. Parnassah is a word that appears in rabbinical literature as one of the most important concepts in daily life. It does not mean wealth in the sense of luxury. It means the specific personalized provision that the Creator has designated for your soul. Every person has a parnassah, a flow of abundance that was designed specifically for them. The tragedy is that most people block it without knowing they are doing so. And this brings me to something I need to tell you now, because if you only take one thing from this entire teaching, let it be this. The Zohar, the foundational text of Jewish mysticism, teaches that abundance does not flow into a home that is spiritually cluttered or energetically closed. There are specific things, objects, attitudes, habits, words that act like dams in the river of divine provision. And one of the most powerful ways to open those dams is through a conscious physical act performed in the heart of the home, which in the spiritual tradition is almost always the kitchen. The kitchen, in Jewish mystical thought, is not merely where food is prepared. It is where the miracle of sustenance happens every day. Every time a mother takes flour and transforms it into bread, she is performing in miniature the miracle of manna in the desert. She is participating in an act of co-creation with the divine. This is why the kitchen was always considered a sacred space, why the laws of kashrut, the dietary laws, were not simply about health, but about maintaining the spiritual sanctity of the place where provision enters the body. When you take 3 coins and place them in your flour jar tonight, or in whatever container holds your grain, your staples, your daily provisions, you are reconnecting this space to its sacred purpose. You are restoring the spiritual memory of your kitchen. And the women who have done this for generations will tell you things shift, not always dramatically, not always immediately, but they shift. The month that seemed impossible becomes manageable. The unexpected bill is met by an unexpected income. The door that was closed for years quietly opens. Now let me give you the practice in precise detail, because precision matters here. This is not a ritual where approximation works. The Kabbalistic masters were always specific, because specificity is the language of intention. Choose 3 coins. They should ideally be coins of some value, not the smallest denomination you can find, but coins that represent real provision to you. The metal matters less than the intentionality, but traditionally round coins are preferred because the circle in Kabbalah represents completion, eternity, and the divine cycle that has no beginning and no end. Clean the coins first. Not a complicated process. Simply wash them with water, dry them, and as you do, whisper, "I purify this channel." You are cleaning not just the metal, but the spiritual frequency of the object you are about to consecrate to a sacred purpose. Then go to your kitchen at night. The evening hours carry a specific spiritual quality in Jewish tradition. They are hours of transition, when the veil between the seen and unseen is thinner. The Talmud teaches that divine presence moves through the world in a different way after sunset. And this is why so many Jewish practices are timed to the evening. Shabbat begins at sundown. The Passover Seder happens at night. Prayers of protection are said before sleep. Use this time. Stand before your flour jar or grain container. Open it. Hold the 3 coins in your left hand. The left side in Kabbalah is the side of receiving. The right side gives. The left side draws in. Then with your right hand, take the first coin and place it into the flour. As you do, say quietly, "For the blessing of this home." Take the second coin with your right hand from your left palm, and as you place it, say, "For the health of all who live here." Take the third coin, and as it settles into the flour, say, "For the parnassah that flows without end." Close the jar. Do not disturb it for at least 7 days. The number 7, in case you are wondering, corresponds to the 7 days of creation and the 7 lower sephirot, the divine attributes through which blessing flows into the physical world. By leaving the coins undisturbed for 7 days, you are allowing the intention to settle, to anchor, to take root in the spiritual fabric of your home. This is not superstition. This is the same principle that governs how seeds are planted. You do not dig up a seed the next morning to see if it has sprouted. You trust the process. You honor the time. After 7 days, the coins remain in the jar permanently. You do not remove them. If the flour runs low, you refill it. If the jar is washed, you set the coins aside with care and return them. They are not currency anymore. They have become something else entirely. They have become a permanent fixture of your home's spiritual architecture. And in the tradition passed down through the Jewish mothers who practiced this, the jar, so as long as the coins remain inside it, is never truly empty. Even when the flour runs out, something is always left behind, something invisible but real, a residue of intention, a memory of abundance that the home carries forward. Rabbi Menachem Mendel of Kotsk, one of the great Hasidic masters, once taught his students that poverty is not simply the absence of money. Poverty, he said, is the absence of awareness. The person who does not notice the blessings that surround them cannot receive more blessings because they have no container for them. The coins in the flour jar are, at their deepest level, a tool for awareness. Every time you open that jar, every time you cook with that flour, you are reminded physically, tangibly, that provision is present, that abundance is not something out there waiting to arrive someday. It is here. It is now. It is in this jar. It is in this kitchen. It is in this home. And when you remember that, truly remember it, not as an idea, but as a felt reality, something shifts in how you move through your day. You stop operating from scarcity. You stop making decisions from fear. You start to inhabit the frequency of Parnassa, which is not a feeling but a spiritual state. The rabbis described it as dot, deep knowing. And from dot, from that place of knowing, the actions you take are different. The words you speak are different. The people you attract into your life are different. Everything changes because the root has changed. This is the teaching that most people miss when they hear about spiritual rituals. They focus on the ritual and miss the transformation the ritual is designed to produce. The coins are not magic. The flour jar is not a lucky charm. The practice is a doorway, a physical, repeatable doorway into a state of consciousness that the tradition calls bidashan. Trust, divine trust, the unshakable confidence that the Creator, who has sustained every generation before you, will sustain you too. There is a verse from the book of Psalms, Psalm 37, verse 25, that the Jewish tradition returns to again and again when speaking of Parnassah. I have been young, and now I am old, yet I have never seen the righteous forsaken, nor their children begging for bread. David, who wrote these words from a life of extraordinary suffering and extraordinary victory, was not speaking naively. He was speaking from the hard-won knowledge of someone who had learned, through decades of experience, that divine provision is real, that it does not always look the way you expect, that it does not always arrive on the schedule you planned, but that it comes. It always comes. The Jewish mothers who placed coins in their flour jars were not performing this ritual because life was easy. Many of them lived through poverty, persecution, displacement, and loss that most of us cannot imagine. They did it because life was hard. They did it because they needed to remind themselves every single day, every time they opened that jar, that they were not alone, that they were not abandoned, that the same God who had sustained their ancestors in the desert would sustain them in their kitchens, in their homes, in their lives. And now you know this. Now you carry this teaching. And that means something. Tonight, before you sleep, go to your kitchen, find 3 coins, clean them, stand before your flour jar or the most essential provision container in your home. Place those coins inside, one by one, with the words that have been spoken by Jewish mothers for centuries. Close the jar, and then, and this is perhaps the most important step of all, take a moment to feel grateful, not for what might come, for what is already here, for the kitchen you are standing in, for the food that is already present, for the life that is already flowing through your home. Gratitude is the last seal on this practice. It is the spiritual act that closes the circuit and allows the energy to move. Without it, the ritual is like a door left slightly open. There is a gap where what you have invited can slip back out. Gratitude closes the door. Gratitude says, this is enough. And from enough, more always comes. Remember, abundance is your birthright, not as a reward for suffering, not as something you must earn through extraordinary sacrifice. It is written into the design of your soul by a creator who does not make mistakes. The flour jar with its 3 coins is simply a reminder of what was always true, a signal, a declaration, a daily act of faith that keeps the channel open, the vessel full, and the home aligned with the eternal flow of divine provision. If this teaching moves something in you, share it. There is someone in your life who needs to hear this, someone who has been struggling, who has forgotten that abundance is possible, who needs this small sacred act of hope placed in their hands tonight. Send it to them. Let this teaching travel further than it did before. May the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob bless every home that opens itself tonight in faith. May your flour jar never be truly empty. May your table always have what it needs. May Parnassah flow to you and through you, and from you to those you love, now and in every season to come. Amen. Subscribe to this channel and keep these teachings close, because every video we share is another key, another doorway, another piece of wisdom that was never meant to be lost.